Alright guys, welcome back to the channel again. So last video you saw of this car, it was at Atco. We ran the car to see what it does. Daryl purchased a Novi Vortec supercharger. Alright, so this is what it is. I'm going to go through the whole thing with you guys. So I'm going to unbox it all. I'm going to lay it all out on this table here. We're in a nice clean room. This is the only thing that's going to be in here. So this is going to be a nice little project we're going to do. And we'll go step by step and show you how it all works. Bring you through tuning it, the whole bit. Alright, dyno in it and everything. And then back to the track. So probably going to be a couple of parts video, but here we go. Alright, got it all unboxed. So the directions, we're going to go through those. A lot of stuff to read. But so this is all the stuff unboxed, so we know what we got, what we don't got. This is the bolt kit, the bracket, pulleys, connector for the hose, air inlet hose, different hoses for the heater, clamps, inlet, bracketry, brand new filter, inlet tube, vacuum lines. There's a bunch of fittings in here, breather stuff, PCV hoses. This is a V3. This is the head unit itself. So this is a V3. It's self-oiling. Comes with the oil to lubricate it so that you don't have to make any oil pan holes and drain back holes and all that. When you change the oil in a car, you change the oil in the unit and you're done. Okay, so it's a nicer setup. It's the newer setup. The V2, you had to put an oil. Those we used to have to do is make a hole in the oil pan and then tap it and then put a little drain on it, and you had to drain it. It's a pain in the neck. All right, this separate. You drain the oil in the car, drain the oil in this. It's got a little drain valve. You drain it out, you're done. Refill it back up. You just get a bunch of these from them. Tells you how many it uses, and then you're done with that. So that's a simple thing. So first thing we're going to do is I'm going to take the ECU out of the car. We're going to take the kick panel out here, lift this panel up. Inside the car, right here, inside the kick panel is the computer. That's got to come out. We're going to send it off to Rob, and he's going to help us out with this. Rob at RTR Automotive. If you guys need one of these installed, you can bring it here, bring it there. But he's got a dyno, which we're going to go to after we're done with this, and he's going to tune it for us. He sells the flash, the computer, the handheld deal to flash it so you can start it up. So at this point, I need to take that out so that he can figure out what we need to do next. All right, as far as the computer goes. All right, stay tuned. All right, so you got the rocker panel, right? Take that off, that just lifts off. The kick panel has one little hole with a push, push-in little button thing, plastic push-in deal. All right, so you pull that out. The computer comes out. This one was actually just loose in there. So, and then it has this setup here, which God only knows what all this is. We're gonna find that out. All right, so that's gonna be that. I'm gonna start working on the front. Disconnect the battery, and I'm gonna disconnect all this stuff here. All these hoses, connectors, take that tube out, disconnect the throttle, the hose off the throttle body. All right, so we got everything disconnected from the throttle body: hoses, elbows, mass airflow sensor, air cleaner, and the serpentine belt. Serpentine belt is shot. It's all full of oil, so I got to figure out why it's greasy. The air filter, that thing is junk. It's buried in there, so it's always hard to get. Look at that thing. Here's a 10th right there. All right, so anyway, got to figure out why that thing was wet with oil. Got a leak someplace. It's all greasy. I just cleaned my hands. I still got greasy crap on it. So, taking this off. This gets bent down. Okay, this hose gets shortened by 1 inch. There's a little tube that extends it so it moves the hose over real close to the radiator. So I'm going to do that next. And then take the pulleys off, and I'll show you what I'm doing with that. All right, so basically I'm just gonna do this stuff real quick and then show you after it's done. Okay, it's nothing you really need to know. It's basically gonna cut the hose shorter. I gotta drain some fluid out of it, drain the antifreeze out of it, change the pulleys, take that little bracket off, and then I'm gonna extend that. All right, so I cleaned all this oil residue off of everything, so we dried it all up. I dumped a couple of cans of brake clean on it, blew it all off, so it's nice and clean, it's nice and dry. Got all the rest of the bolts out that need to come out. We got this all assembled. We're gonna route the belt, except for what goes on here, on the water pump, and then we'll be able to drop this down into place, connect the bolts, and then reset up the belt. All right? All right, so got the thing installed finally. Third time's a charm. So if you look right here, see that? It's got a little washer. So above that, the bracket sits flush. That mount, this one, spacer sits flush. And then you need two washers on this one, the bottom one gets a washer. So they supply washers, like thick washers like that. It gets one in each one of those. But what you do is you put the belt on everything except the water pump. Route it to you drop the supercharger down onto it. Route the belt around the pulleys that go on the supercharger, and then bolt it in place. And then you put the tensioner. So now there's no way to grab the tensioner like stock. So you got to kind of grab it with a pair of channel locks and move it so it tells you in your directions too. Grab it with the channel locks, twist the tensioner, and then get it on the water pump, and then make sure everything's all lined up. And that's good. The other thing they didn't say nothing about was this bolt right here. Right? That bolt right there had this in it. So you need to take this off and put that bolt in it, or else the ProCharger hits the back of that. Or that hits the back of the supercharger, I mean. Alright, so other than that, that's on. So that part's done. I need to attach this bracket onto that front of the bracket of the supercharger. And then that part's done. I need to put the hose, I need to modify the hose. So you cut an inch off of this side, slice it there to make it longer so it wraps around and comes real close to here. And it doesn't interfere with this inlet tube. Alright, so that's one thing I got to do. And then the other thing is we got to order injectors and get new spark plugs. So we're going to put a new set of plugs in it. They recommend if it's got more than a couple thousand miles on, 10,000 miles on plugs or something, to put plugs in it. So we're going to put a set of plugs in it, upgrade the injectors. So 60-pound injectors, different fuel pump in the tank, and a fuel pump module control. All right, so I'll show you all that when we get it. So that's going to get ordered. once we get that stuff and the controller and the programmer for the ECU. So when that stuff comes in, I'll show you what all that does. In the meantime, I'll finish this up, probably this little stuff here tomorrow, and pull the plugs and the injectors out. This way they'll be ready to go when they come in. All right, so this is the modification you got to do to the upper hose. You cut an inch off of this part where it goes onto the radiator. You cut it just past the turn, so you got a little straight piece, and then add the tube to it with 2 clamps. So what that does is basically it's going to make it shorter there and longer here, so that it puts it closer to the front of the car against the radiator and clears the belt and the supercharger and everything else. All right, so that's that. All right, so next thing, so that's mounted. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the, I started unplugging the injectors. I'm going to take the rails off both sides, take the injectors out, and take the spark plugs out. I got new plugs. We're going to put the plugs in it. And then when the injectors come, we'll pop the injectors in it, and then that'll be done. And we'll see what else we got to get done, all right? All right, so that side, injectors, coils are out. So to take those off, you're basically just going to, there's 4 screws, 4 bolts, 1 in the front, 1 on each side, 1 in the front, 1 in the back on each, so there's 4 total. So depending on what intake manifold you have and whatever, it could be a 10 millimeter, it could be a 7 millimeter, or it could be an 8 millimeter. All right, so these were 10s. You just pull it straight up. All the injectors basically come out. Blow everything off before you take those off. Actually, you know, just blow everything off the intake so nothing goes down the holes. So the injectors come off. This could just stay there. It don't have to go anywhere. Coils, there's a little clip underneath. Just basically squeeze it together. You can just barely feel it, and they just slide right off. Okay, they just, so that little tiny thing right there, just squeeze it, and they come right off. Very simple. Don't force them, they come right off. Okay, and then the injectors, you just squeeze and pull them off. Okay, so that's that. And then the coils, basically same thing, just a 7 millimeter, or it could be a 5/16, right? 7 millimeter or 8 millimeter and 5/16, whichever. Again, depending on if anybody touched them. These are stock. We still got the Motorcraft ones all in here. 7 millimeter, they come straight out. I'll just show you one. So, all right, bolt out, and they come, pop straight out. Okay, and then same thing. When you look down that hole, you don't want to see any oil or anything in here, because that means you got a leak somewhere. Which on these you won't see nothing. It's pretty clean, but just blow them all off, and then we'll get all this grime and crap off them before we put them back in, clean them all up. All right, and then the spark plugs are down there. Change the plugs. All right, so on the spark plugs, all right, once you get the coil packs off, or the coils off it, all right, crack them all loose. They're set way down in there, so make sure they're all spun all the way off. And then you could use one of these. All it is basically a piece of rubber hose on the end of something, and just fish it out. And those plugs are junk. Okay, so we got new plugs anyway. Even if these were good, we weren't using these. You want to put a little bit of colder plug in it for boost. So check them out. Yeah. Yep, they've been in here for a while. this is basically, yep, shot. Just making sure there's nothing crazy, like you got one weird one or something. So far they all look the same, which is good. They're shot, but at least they're all the same. All right. Yep. All right, and then I'll show you the ones that we're number what we're doing, putting them in. All right, so if you could see that. Oh, sorry. That's the part number. All right. As you could see from this plug to this plug, that protrudes out. That's a hotter plug. This protrudes in. That's a colder plug. Okay. And what you want that because of the boost, and they're gapped at 25. So you want to gap them a little bit tighter than stock also because, again, under boost, once you compress, everything's compressed under that and ready to rock, it'll put the flame out. So you get like a misfire. So you got to make sure you got the right plugs in it and the right gap. And again, shout out to Rob at RTR. Basically, he's like a walking encyclopedia when it comes to this stuff. So, gave us all the part numbers we needed to use. You guys will see him and his place in the next video, I guess, when we're ready to get it dynoed and tuned. I had him on one video when we went up to New York with the Comet. Him and his dad got a nice shop up there. They pretty much do everything. So if you need anything from them, you can always call them. I'll put their number on the link inside the description when we get up there and you see the video. All right, so the plugs are all done. I already did the other side, same thing. Gapped at 25. And they're done. So Daryl ordered injectors and he ordered pretty much everything else we need. Fuel pump, injectors, the injector driver, the injector driver, pump driver, throttle body, the throttle body, elbow, not the elbow, I'm sorry, the other elbow for the front of the front of the supercharger. Flow master mufflers are already on the car, so those are done from before. There's I believe, I gotta look under there again. I think it might still have the cats on it, I don't remember. I'll show you that when we get it up in the air and do the fuel pump. So the fuel pump's coming, fuel pump driver's coming, mass airflow sensor's coming, injectors are coming. The air inlet sensor, we got that, so we're going to change that. Alright, but we'll show you all that as we go along. Alright, so now we're just waiting on parts.